My name is Bronwyn Jones. I had a heart transplant on the 19th of August 2009 following a diagnosis of dilated cardiomyopathy, which is a form of heart failure. It was a complete shock when I was diagnosed with heart failure. Although heart disease is in my family, that type of heart condition wasn't. I'd been feeling ill for about a year, 18 months before, but the symptoms weren't really obvious, so it was a real shock. Once I'd had the diagnosis, I became very depressed and life became very difficult. I constantly thought about dying, and although I'd been told ultimately I might need a heart transplant, when it actually happened I was devastated. About 11 months after the diagnosis, I went downhill really quickly, and I was admitted to the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle upon Tyne as an emergency. By this stage I was extremely ill. I'd got heart failure, kidney failure, liver failure. I was on dialysis and it was really very near the end. But I was very, very lucky. I went to number 1 on the UK transplant list, and 6 days after going on the heart transplant list, I got my new heart. Extremely lucky. It was a textbook recovery. Didn't really have any complications. Everything went according to plan. And I suppose it must have been about 5 to 6 weeks after the transplant I was allowed home. First year was lots and lots of journeys backwards and forwards to the hospital, lots of drugs, a big drug regime, lots of tests, lots of checkups. But after 12 months things became a lot easier. The regular visits to the hospital, whilst it was still happening, they became less frequent. Every month that went by, I felt better and better, particularly psychologically, because a heart transplant is not just a physical recovery, it's a psychological recovery as well. It's a huge ordeal to know that you've had an organ from somebody who's died. You're extremely grateful. You know that you wouldn't be there if the family hadn't agreed to that. Your husband's going to be a widow, your children are without a mother. It doesn't just affect you, it affects the whole family. I went back to work about 6 months after the transplant. Really lovely to get back to normal. Life started to feel normal again with some regular routine. And from then on, life's been pretty normal really. I go on holiday, I exercise, I carry out normally everyday activities. Still have regular checkups at the hospital, but much less frequent. And life feels really, really good. And I feel extremely grateful to the family that allowed the organ donation to take place, and also to the organ donor himself, Benoit, a young gentleman from France, forever in his debt and his family's debt. And life just feels really good, and I'm extremely grateful to be here.